Good evening. I'd like to call to order the February 17th, 2015 meeting of the Town of Manchester Planning and Zoning Commission. First item on the agenda is the approval of the January 20th minutes.
I make a motion we approve the January 20th minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So approved. Next item, reports. Michelle?
I'm going to go a little backwards here. We have no Board of Zoning Appeals. They're the ones that aren't having to work this year. But as far as report for myself, I just want to let you know that Western Avenue they are going through the review process. I'm getting back reviews. I'm not handing them out until I get them all back to you guys. I assume probably next month we will hear from them as far as coming in for their concept. They came in, but we didn't give any approvals. Steve and I met with them and discussed Steve's concern with the water line and maybe running it a little differently and discuss a little further some of those retaining walls. So there may be some changes that they're doing, but they're aware that we have concerns with it. And that's all I have. Steve can go on.
Just a few things that I brought to the Mayor and Council's attention last Tuesday night. I may or may not have told you about the stormwater management facility project located off of Route 27 at the location of the current skate park. That's a project that we're partnering with Carroll County, Maryland State Highways Administration to put in a facility there that would capture about 35 to 45 acres of impervious surface right through that area. So it appears that that project may start late spring or early summer of 2016. So I presented that to the council, and of course we have to move our skate park to another location. We have two locations that we're looking at, so we're going to start that process probably midsummer to early fall and moving that away to another location. The other item that the council acted on was our public records policy, which has not been updated since 1991. Steve Quibell, our office assistant with the police department, did a fine job on crafting that. We presented it to the mayor and the council, and they approved that. So that was adopted at the last meeting. Other than that, it's pretty nice when it gets to 22 degrees and it feels like it's heat wave out.
Did you wear shorts?
No, but
Just checking.
It's funny, a lot of people I talked to today said they were shoveling snow in just sweatshirts this morning because 16 and no wind felt
Right,
beautiful.
yeah, you're right.
But they're ready for what, 6 below on a Friday morning?
Yeah. That's it.
Kim, would you like to add anything?
I have nothing more to add.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving right along.
Bobby's not here.
Item 4 on the agenda, the electronic variable sign review for the fire department.
You have a copy of the sign, and then I also gave you a copy of what the zoning certificate, I assume, would look like, using the same requirements you've set forth
Yeah.
on other ones. The reason this has come for you, even though it existed, they're expanding their sign, making a larger sign, different type of display. So we just wanted to run it through you like the code says, and you guys hear this approval.
They're just changing the variable message board below their sign, correct?
I think so, right, Steve? The way this is based, it says that this exists, but you're
Yes.
getting this part replaced.
Yes, I believe the top part may be replaced also because that's fairly faded.
Okay.
So I think.
Right.
The overall height's the same.
Right,
Right.
correct.
With the sign on 30 right around Holland.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
No, I guess when the dental office came in, we had that trial period for them, and nobody
There was no issue.
had any issues with it.
Yes.
So as long as we have the same conditions on this one, I don't anticipate that there should be any issues with that.
I have no objections with this
Yeah.
sign. It meets the specifications that we've laid out on other projects. So.
I've seen the sign, it looks nice.
Yep.
So I entertain a motion to accept the,
I make a motion to accept the sign as submitted.
I'll second the motion.
okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So passed. Okay.
Okay. Keep moving along.
Okay, and our final item for this evening, the Manchester Farms Section 7 final approval.
Before we go, I need to recuse myself from this matter since my company has a professional relationship with Morrison Ritchie, so I don't think it would be appropriate for me to vote on this matter.
Thank you, so noted.
And I just want to let you guys know that I do have a verbal approval from engineering. That was the only thing that was outstanding. There's 20-some comments from engineering that had to be reviewed. They have been reviewed. Doug Barmore called me. I spoke to Chris Hine today because I still didn't have a paper copy. Because the office was closed, he responded to me through email but couldn't send me a hard copy. So he did give me a verbal approval and sent me approval through email today. But I don't have anything paper to give. So with that being the final one, all the comments have been addressed from the county.
Do you have anybody from the developer or the engineer, you have any come up and make any comments or before we?
My name's Jeff Mathai with Morrison Ritchie Associates. We prepared the plans. I'm here with Robert Holwick of Bob Ward. Just to summarize where we are, or where we are in the process, we received concept plan approval, preliminary plan approval, and then the final plans you have in front of you, we've received, as Michelle said, the development review approval, stormwater management approval, landscape and forest conservation, engineering review, and the soil conservation district. So I think we've had most of those approvals for a couple months. The last set of comments was from engineering review, and we successfully answered their comments. It was mostly procedural issues, so they fell in line more with Carroll County's plans, how they wanted to see a couple things. The off-site storm drain system, we now have 10 feet from the center line of the storm drain to the property lines, in case there ever has to be any type of maintenance. Should be no issue to have to dig them up and repair them, the storm drains. Excuse me. That was, basically everything else was, the plans really didn't change. We added a couple blow-ups of the court. It was all within the road and storm drain plans. We added a detail for the court and for the intersection, and just a couple other things. I can go through the letter, but like I said, it's mostly procedural issues.
Previously, the town had made noted concern over the proximity of the pipe to the property line. So you have shifted that over now?
Yes.
And the largest pipe in that run is a 24-inch pipe?
Correct, that's at the top of the system, and then once it starts going down the hill where it gets a little steeper, we reduce the size, because the capacity basically increases on the steeper pipe.
And generally, that pipe is in the 4 to 6 foot range as far as depth is concerned?
Yes, generally, yes. I mean, it's, in some places, a little shallower than that, but yes.
So the need for additional lay-down space and back slope will not be necessary?
Correct.
Do you anticipate any problems with water connections?
No, I mean, we're basically, we're going under the water and over the sewer. We have a, pretty good, the water's about 3.5 to 4 feet, and the sewer is down to 10 feet, the service connection, so. And they're all adequately shown on the plan, and we've talked to a contractor about the job, and they don't see any issues.
Excuse me, what sewer in that area? I'm not-
Hang on a minute, we'll take comments, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So no, I don't anticipate any issues.
No further changes have been done to the layout of the actual site itself?
Not
beyond-
since the last time
Okay.
we met.
And as a result of the planning process, you lost 2 units or 3 units since we started this?
I think it was just one.
Yeah, we had 17, we're down to 15.
So, okay.
Okay.
The one at the bottom of the hill, that was
Yeah.
the big one,
Okay.
at the bottom of the driveway.
Yeah, I believe you saw there's no shared driveways. I think that was on the last plan.
Right.
And then the sewer for the folks along Shar Mill, we surveyed Shar Mill Drive, analyzed it, looked at it, and to get sewer along Shar Mill Drive, we would need additional easement onto the property in the corner of Suzanne and
Right.
Shar Mill. Then with all the utilities that are there, you would have to go behind the existing right-of-way, and then you would hit the existing septic drain fields. If you went down into the street, you'd be too deep to get the houses to go back up. So we looked at running it down the property line of our lots and the existing homes, which there's a 7.5-foot easement on the existing homes. But we had to take all the trees out, disrupt everything along there, so we decided just to pull it 10 feet onto our property and run it, and then take laterals in between the trees on the low end of their likely tie-in.
Okay.
So that was the only way we could get it without additional easements from the existing homeowners.
Okay. In looking back at the plans, looking back at my notes from previous meetings, it did appear that everything was addressed. I just wanted to confirm tonight. I have no further questions for the applicant at this time.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I would like to say that in addition to what you've seen in the plans, the developer has agreed, and we've put in the public works agreement that they are, once those sewer lines are all complete in that particular section, they're going to camera them all. We had a little bit of section 6 where we had some blockage of stuff, the lines are going to camera. That'll be in the public works agreement. They're also going to replace the storm drain inlets as they go down Susan Ann.
Okay.
We also did
Process.
something a little bit different. We go around and we paint our stormwater inlets, do not dump drains to bay. So what we're gonna be doing, we requested the inlets to be molded into the inlet covers. Do not dump drains to bay, so that'll save the town in the future. We don't have to go around and paint them all, so they're willing to do that for us. So we're gonna start doing that on all of our projects also.
Steve, do you have any other concerns?
No, they addressed all the questions and concerns that I had. I reviewed the plans, they were fine. Donnie Knott, our Director of Public Works, he reviewed them, and Michelle told me that he said he found nothing wrong, so.
Okay,
good with it.
thank you, gentlemen. Public comment.
You have to go up and just state your name, please, for record.
I just have two questions, I guess.
Need you just- Sorry,
Two questions. I'm Melissa Spittle,
thank you.
resident of Charmel Drive. The four of us here in the front row are residents of Charmel Drive. We've spoken with Steve and Michelle, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Multiple times. as well as the gentleman in the green shirt, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. We're homeowners, our properties are affected, and we have concerns. Now, it sounds like from what we just heard, that the sewer line is now going to run further more away from our properties, is that correct? It's not going to be as close as it was originally when we spoke? Did I understand that correctly?
10 or 10 feet off your property.
Okay, so the trees will be saved? Some of okay, that's great. Now, my question is, we're all in septic systems. This is a two-part question, actually. If and when our septics fail, because they are the original septics, are 20-some years old, they're going to fail. Will we be able to obtain the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Grant to repair our septics, which will cost us little to nothing? Or will we be expected to tie into the sewer line? If that is the case, what is that going to cost us? Because it could be prohibitive. It could be very cost prohibitive, and heaven forbid if we want to sell our homes, we'd never get the money out of it. And even if we don't, are we supposed to take out a home equity line of credit? I mean, how are we supposed to pay for this? Or is it going to be so far deep in the ground that we won't need a pump, and hooking into it won't be an issue?
I can answer the first question. Probably if your septic system would,
Wait a minute, Tony.
Probably, you're not answering. If you're saying probably, you don't know the answer.
you're kidding me, right?
Tony,
You're
just-
kidding me.
let Steve talk.
Okay. Hold on a minute. One thing at a time, please. Let's keep it orderly. Steve?
My first comment. The decision, if you can have a replacement septic system, would come from the Carroll County Health Department. It would not come from the town of Manchester.
Actually, it comes from the MDE, as far as I understand. They
You
give
have-
final approval. MDE,
Okay, you have to start with the Carroll County
Correct.
Health Department.
correct.
Now, the Carroll County Health Department would look at this and say, you have town sewer to the rear of your property, and their recommendation would be to
Tie
tie
in,
in to
sure.
the town sewer. In regards to the grants that you talk about, I can give you a name, Mr. Ed Singer at the Carroll County Health Department. He can help you out with that. He can clarify that.
Okay.
But chances are, they will say,
Tie into the sewer.
tie into the
Correct.
town sanitary
Right.
sewer.
So then the next,
Are we going to need pumps, or is it going to run
Now-
downhill where we won't need a pump?
What the engineers did was they did deepen the line to eliminate the pumps that you would need in your basement.
Okay,
Now, when you look at this on the long range, and we do have homes within the town that do have pump systems in their basements, they replace those pumps probably every 10 years. And that's the track record.
now how much does that cost?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I don't have a clue. I don't know. So
Now,
when you look
Okay.
at your monthly electric bill and the pump replacement, and here the lines were deepened enough that you can get the gravity flow coming out of your house, that you wouldn't have to worry about the maintenance of the pump. Now, you would have the initial cost of installing the line at a deeper depth, but once it's in, it's in.
now, what
Now-
about, when we first talked to you back in the summer,
What's the cost of that?
well, hold on, Tony. When you want to speak, get up here, okay? I'm talking right now. When we first conferred, we were all conferred last summer,
Correct.
out in the property.
That is
We were all out there,
Yes.
I know you remember. You initially, and I apologize, I forget what price you initially quoted to me. You told me we'd all be able to tie in for a fixed amount, but I don't remember, it was like 500 or 5,000 or something, 5,000.
That would be the town charge that you would be charged.
Okay, so what
That-
charges would we have over and above that,
With the town?
in general? To tie in, what
I
would
can
we
only give
be,
you, I can only give you.
what would
the-
we have to pay for? I'm not looking for a dollar amount. What items would we need to pay for over and above that $5,000 fee?
Whatever your plumber would charge to tie into the lateral that
Okay.
these folks are supplying.
All right, because plumbers aren't cheap, okay.
Now, this is not, let me explain something. This is not a new concept for the town of Manchester.
Okay.
We have other areas in the town that we have provided sewer laterals to for the future. We have the homes along Charmill Drive to the south side, when Manchester Farm Section 4 was originally put in, that when their septics fail, they can tie into the system. We also have at least 3 that I'm aware of going up Park Avenue that have laterals available if those septics fail. Now, as I told you on site, and I want to make it very clear, that our code does state that if the sewer line runs nearby your property, you have to tie in. I've worked with 3 administrations since then, and they do not press the issue. And I told you that on site, that you have to keep that in the back of your mind. If a new administration gets in, a new mayor and council, they can say, hey, listen, the code states this, and you have to tie in within 90 days.
I think that's the issue the 4 of us are having, is that we feel like we will, at some point in time, be forced to tie into it, as opposed to having the option of possibly having our current septic, the fields redone or repaired or something else. We feel like our hands are tied, and we are going to, whether it's today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, we are going to be forced to tie into a sewer line that currently is not there, and we're going to have no other options, and we're going to have to pay for it and come up with a way to pay for it. And let's face it, I understand everything I'm saying right now is in vain, because y'all are going to do what you want. This is already, obviously, it's already approved. You got the email from the county. It's going forward. But I'm just telling you, we don't like that we are being forced. We're going to be forced to do something. We're going to be forced to spend a lot of money, however much it is, whether even $5,000. I don't have $5,000 sitting around to tie into a sewer line, just sitting there waiting to tie into a sewer line. So when the day comes, how are we supposed to do it?
I would just.
We got to be able to flush our toilets. We got to be able to take showers, and our hands are tied, and we are not happy about that.
I could give you a suggestion. A suggestion would be, if you have concerns about this, you could come to the mayor and the council, and you could question the mayor and the council and get them to change the policy, get them to change the code in a way that says, not that you have 90 days to tie into the sewer line if it runs in front of your house.
But even
You could word it in a way that if our septic fails, and especially...
It's not if, it's when. The old septics, they will fail.
Especially in your area, Melissa.
Exactly, I
We
know.
have a number of failing septic systems down there.
That's our
We
concern.
have some people that can't even wash their clothes. They have to go to the laundromat to wash their clothes. So we're giving you that availability to tie in, another option to tie in.
I do appreciate that. I truly do. But it's becoming very evident that it's not an option. It's going to be a mandatory thing. We're not going to have that as an option and other options to consider also. It's
Okay,
either that or nothing.
If you revert back, and I can't answer about the grants that you had spoken about.
It's called the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Grant. It pays for a big chunk of septic
Okay,
repair.
But just let me finish. Just to say that today, your septic fails,
Mm-hmm.
today, what would you do? What would you do?
What would I do? I would be going to the county tomorrow to apply for the grant.
And how long would that take? And you
Well,
gotta
I don't
remember,
know,
your
but it's an
septic-
option. But you know what? If it fails today, there's no sewer line to tie into either, so it's the same deal. And if there was a sewer line, do you think I'm going to be tied into it by tomorrow? No. It's going to take time as well.
I can't answer what you're talking, as far as the grants, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, you should
Yeah.
probably become familiar with it.
I did. I spoke to Ed Singer at the health department, and you should give him a call tomorrow. There's grants available for both. If sewer's around, they really don't want you back on septic. They want you to hook into a sewer if it's available. So it's for both entities that they have different amounts.
Sit down so I can get up to speed.
I will.
I guess my concern, Melissa,
You're
is
letting people tell you what they want to do, and you're not listening. You don't know what we need.
Go ahead, Alex.
What would you, I guess what concerns is if you fail in your septic, and there is no, the honest point is, there is no chance whether that lateral is there or not, what value would you have, or what would you do in your home with no septic system or no future prospect of having a septic system in there? I mean, I'm not, this isn't my forte. I mean, can you put a sand mound in its place? I mean, is that, so the
But there
idea,
are other technologies, but when you start getting into those, you're not getting into cheap technology either. I mean, there's a drip irrigation type field you can set up and all, but
Their lots aren't large enough.
It's just there are options, but if the sewer line is in place, we will not be allowed to even consider any of the other options. It will be tying to the septic, period. We won't be allowed to take advantage of any other options. That won't be available to us. We were told that. If the septic fails, the MDA and the county, they're gonna look at it and say, you have sewer line available, that's what you need to do.
you don't want to have the availability to tie into the public sewer.
No, we do, but we want it at the front. Anthony Spittle, Melissa's husband. Anthony Spittle, Melissa's husband. I live on 3255 Charmel Drive, lived there 10 years. Here's what we have asked the town to do, which they denied us. They've checked into us, and it wasn't cost efficient for them. We asked them to run the line in the front of the houses where our septics are. It's a short fix. You run the line down the middle of the street where everybody else in the neighborhood is, and we can tie into there for $10,000. To tie into the back is a $30,000 to $35,000 tie-in that's going to have to go 40 to 50 feet deep in the ground to tie in. Who's that benefit? It doesn't benefit us because it's going to cost us a lot of money. It benefits the town who gets the job for free. Do you get the job for free? Yes. Steve, do you get the job for free? That's one simple question. Do you get that job for free? That's all I'm asking.
You would always get it.
Yes, you get it for free. It costs us a lot of money. It costs us $30,000 to tie into that. Because not only do we gotta go 125 feet, we gotta go 30 to 40 feet down.
That is not cost effective for us. Why would it be cost effective for us to spend $40,000, $30,000 to $40,000 to tie into a septic that's behind our house, when if they wanted to tie us in, they could run it down the front of the street, and we'd all be more than glad to tie into it for $5,000 to $10,000.
Mr. Chairman,
sir,
could I have a chance to speak?
can I just ask you,
I appreciate that.
all right, come on. Now, this is enough.
Well, you know,
No,
come on.
stop. Stop.
Okay, you're talking about putting us
Tony,
on the
I
defensive.
understand your concern, but we're not going to get out of hand.
Okay.
This is a civilized meeting, and
I'm
we're,
trying to be civilized, but you're talking a lot of money.
okay, well, you're not. So I'm
Talking a lot of money?
no, I'm talking about civility.
Really? Because I said my mind?
No. Now, just hang on a minute. I'm giving you a chance to speak. Let's just remain civil. Steve, please just wait a minute. You can go ahead and finish.
Quentin, you've already cut me off. Where should I start?
Where you left off, talking about how
This
you,
is this is a hardship on us. There are other ways we can come about this. Either the town can run it down the middle of the town, the middle of the street where we can all tie in. That will not cost us $30,000. Or they can get the contractor to do it, who will do whatever he needs to do to get his homes built there. And cost us $30,000 to tie in. Why should we be happy with that, Alex? Really, tell me, why should we be happy with that? And I'm sorry if you think I'm out of line, I'm not out of line. I'm telling you straight up, this is what it's gonna cost us. If you think somebody's gonna dig a trench in the back of our yards 120 feet, 50 feet down in the ground to reach gravity to where he plans on bringing it down to, it's gonna cost us less than $30,000. Really, show me the guy that'll do it. because it won't happen. I'd much rather spend $10,000 for a new septic unit, even 20, because I saved $10,000, than to spend $30,000 down in there. I'd rather not have the man put anything back there. It doesn't do us, we don't benefit from it. We do not benefit from that. And I'd be more than glad to tie into a septic. Melissa would be, Mike would be, Trinka would be, if it ran down through the front of our properties. That's where our septics are. They're not in the back. They're not 125 feet in the back. That is the expense that we will have to occur. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't care that you all think I'm belligerent, you know, and that I'm ignorant. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say there's only one party, one entity that benefits from that, and that's the town. The town, we have to hook in. We have to spend $30,000 hook in, and the town, and I'm not pointing at Steve. I understand it's a town, and I love this town. Don't get me wrong. They incur the septic rate for the rest of the life of that house. Right now, I don't have to pay the town any money except for water. Now, once I tie into the sewer, I gotta pay additional money for sewer for the life of that house. And I wouldn't mind doing that, I really wouldn't. And I don't think any of us would if it was cost effective for us, if it was at the front. If it costs us $30,000, it's not cost effective, that's all I'll say. It's not cost effective for the citizens that live in the neighborhood. And we should not have to comply to what the town wants when it costs us a lot of money. And that's all I'll say.
Mr. Palmer, do you have anything you want to add, please?
Thanks.
Sure.
I'm Mike Palmer, live at 3259 Starmill Drive. My really concern is not with the septic. I'm all for the septic. I mean, I think would be great for us to be able to tie into it. As everyone knows, you know, they're 30, 35 years old. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. My problem is the location. I'm with Tony on that. I mean, it makes no sense to me. It's basically taking away property value from my residents. All the other septic coming up Shore Mill Drive, people can tie into from their septics in front of their house. So let's just say that everything goes as planned. It's going to cost me $30,000, $35,000 to tie into that septic if mine fails. If I decide to sell my house next year, there's another house 100 yards down the street. Similar house, similar price. Realtor comes up and goes, okay, you have a septic tie-in? Oh, yeah, it's about $35,000 for me to tie into it because it's 140 feet behind my house. And the house down the street, yeah, it's $10,000 for me to tie into it because it's 30 feet in front of my house. It's right here. Which house do you think is going to sell first? It's not going to be mine. It's going to be everything else down the street. I just don't understand why it's not going to be consistent throughout Shore Mill Drive. I just don't understand what the big thing is about running it the back. That's just my concern.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Sure. Steve, sorry.
Just a couple comments. I wish Tony would have stayed here. He is correct. This project, this sewer line is being put in at the expense of the developer. We're looking ahead into the future for those residents. Now, to answer Mike's question, you know, if we would go in there, and let's say the town would go in and say, we want to capture all of Shore Mill Drive on sewer, where we would be paying for the project, we, the town, would not be paying for the project. We would put that burden back on the homeowners. The homeowners would be paying a front footage fee in regards to running the sewer. So let's say we looked at all of Shore Mill Drive and we decide we want to capture all those septics and put our own septic line in and so on and so forth. The burden would be put back on you folks.
You're doing that now. You're shifting the cost of now, Steve, for us to tie into our house from.
No, you would still have that tie-in
Which would
cost.
probably be about the same amount of money as it would cost.
Now, hold on. Let me go back to the other question that Tony had. The engineers for the developer has looked at it 3 different ways. And they found that the most cost-effective, beneficial way to run this line was to the rear of the homes. As was mentioned earlier, if you run it to the front, you couldn't pick up grade to get the sewer to flow back onto Susan Ann Drive. If you brought it closer to your house, the line would actually be into your existing septic systems. So that would be a right-of-way that the town would have to incur right in front of your house. You'd have your driveways tore up, you'd have your septic systems tore up. If I'm speaking out of line, you help me out, because you got the paper on the wall. You're the engineer, not me. So they looked at it at least three different ways. They also looked at the cost that it would cost if you would have to go in and put the system in yourself. And I think you're looking at it was like, I don't know how many $100,000 it would cost for you folks to have to foot the bill to put it in. So those are the reasons why. Now, if you look at the flip side of that, and you say, okay, we can take it off the plans, that's fine, forget about it, okay? But I would venture to say, within a number of years, you may be thinking, boy, that was a dumb idea. And I think the other question, and Tony's back there, the other question you brought up, Tony, and the comment was that it would have to be 40 feet into the ground. I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but Jeff, maybe you, 20 feet.
I don't know.
20 feet in depth. And
No, I went to each homeowner, see if they had basement plumbing, okay, right up, all 9 of them. And that basement plumbing, okay, you're gonna have to come out of your footer, come back around. So if you're talking a 1/4 inch fall per foot, so every 10 feet or 2.5 inches is what your pipe's gonna have to drop. So if you're all the way 125 feet, if you're 2 feet deep, okay, so it's coming out of the house at 9 to 10 feet, goes back to be at 12 feet. That's how deep it's gonna be. So the deepest of that line at any one point, not where the laterals are, it's like 14 feet. Okay, so we dropped it to get basement plumbing. Okay, so I'm not sure where this information came from, 30 feet, 40 feet. But cost will be half fee to the county, plumber to do the plumbing, excavator to dig, regular backhoe, 14 feet, it's the deepest, it's not anything big. Even if they hit rock, they can land holes through it. And then you have to properly abandon your septic tank. Okay?
And
So-
then all of our utilities that go underground,
To do what?
all of our utilities, our cable, we have,
Or you want out back, cables out front. You go
No,
around.
actually,
Our
the cables
cables
to
to
our
our
sides
sides come to the side of the
and they
house.
come into the
Right,
side of
you
our
can
house.
mark that, that's-
Plus
you're pretty close, right.
plus the shrubs and
But-
trees and stuff we lose by doing
Well, you're
that.
gonna lose some of that.
Well, yeah, there's nothing
But
here, we don't live there.
you're talking, for gravity to back, I mean, I can't imagine 12 to 15,000 would be the top number. Okay.
That's still a lot of money.
So,
That's a lot of money. Do you
but
have that much sitting around?
your septic
Let's
system,
put in something like that, we don't.
but to get new perk sites, you're not gonna get a regular system on your lots. Okay, they're gonna come and make you perk, and it's not gonna perk. So you're gonna have to come up with a hybrid system that,
Didn't you guys already perk back there?
that's for geotech, that's not for, that's for infiltration.
For what?
Water, stormwater infiltration.
Infiltrate
Why would we
stormwater
have-
management.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
That's all part of your septic field. It
So
has to
that's
put-
another fee that we throw.
No, that's what you have to pay if you wanted to do a new
Okay,
septic.
so
Now,
that's
how
more-
much-
That's more money.
If you were doing a septic system.
If you were doing a septic
Yeah.
system.
If you were redoing a,
We all have septic.
no, but I'm saying if you were to redo a septic system, you'd have to bring a contractor out and do new perk tests
Okay.
to determine if the soil was suitable
Yeah.
Okay.
for taking.
I don't understand.
Yeah, so your front wouldn't work, so you have to put it in the back.
Well, why wouldn't our front work?
Well, you
Your septic's already there. If it failed, you have no room.
need, like, if you went out to do a new, if you had a 2-acre lot today, you'd have to have 2 perk areas.
Right.
And you have to have this huge protected area, okay, to build a new house. Your lots are third of an acre or,
No, they're half
right,
acres.
half acre, they wouldn't even come close.
They're half acres.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, the rule of thumb now is 10,000 square feet of septic reserve area
right.
For a drain field or for a mound?
for a drain field. And for a mound, I think
It's 5.
it's 5,
If
3,
you can
3.
get, if you can get acceptance for a mound and.
If you can get acceptance for a mound.
Is there a grandfather clause? Does that go intact with the
Nope.
Chesapeake Fund? Are
Nope.
you all familiar with
Yeah,
the
Chesapeake
Chesapeake
Fund will
Fund
pay.
with
See, I was under the
Regardless of
impression,
income.
I had spoken with a gentleman, I forget his name, the gentleman, MDE, who covers Carroll County, and who gives the final approval as far as septics and go. He had told me that there's grant money available, which pretty much covers the full cost of septic repair, but he told me that there's nothing that covers tying into sewer. Now, you just mentioned differently.
I was
So,
told
do you know
differently.
anything about that?
Maybe it's not, maybe it's a Carroll County thing.
Is that a
Maybe it's
different,
state.
maybe a
Could be,
different
I don't-
program?
I don't know.
It could be, but Ed Singer is the head of the health department there, and that is who I spoke to.
Okay.
I tried to get some
So he would be
figures.
able to give me more information on what they cover?
And
and-
cost too.
We
He told me
don't mind
cost.
tying in, and we want to bring the town up to the code and all that. We don't. We just don't want to incur a cost that is astronomical to us. That's why
That's
we're
gonna
here.
create a financial hardship. That's
You know,
our, that's the
why we're
overall.
here.
Yeah, and we,
It's effective, we're more.
we understand that. The only thing I would caution is just to be certain when you're coming up with your numbers, make sure you appropriately price what a replacement septic might be, because
Well, I actually have.
because if you don't have any place to perk, if you can't get a drain field in,
I don't know about the perk. I'm not an expert on
Right.
the perk, but I've talked to the guys who come and they suck out my septic, and I have mine done every year,
Mhm.
and they told me they could replace the whole thing for $20,000.
right,
I'm thinking-
that's assuming you can get conventional perks.
Right,
Right.
and if I can get the permits through the county and all that.
Right.
And I don't know that I can get any of that, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm just coming up with a figure. I'm trying to throw a figure out there.
Yeah,
Where I
understood.
don't have a figure where tying in to the back. And when I say $30,000, I'm just throwing that out there. And I think it could be more, but just because of the way the layout of our land, it's down like this, and we're going to here, and it just doesn't make sense to me that we're not gonna be below 30 or 40 feet to get there, to be able to tie in with a gravity feed. And if you're talking about pumps, that's a whole nother different.
I guess the concern is, Tony, still from that property, I mean, having a septic myself, you still gotta have once that front fails, and if the county, let's say the county would entertain looking at another site, what if you don't perk? So you still have nothing on that property.
Okay, but that's one hypothesis. What if we do perk?
Okay, then that's
Okay,
fine, then,
see, we can do it
but
both
then,
ways.
but then you don't have to tie into, well, you're right, the town might require you to tie in, and
See, I don't
as
know if
Steve
I
said,
can,
they,
I don't know if I do. And then that's where we lie here. And I'm just looking at long-term costs that could affect all of us, not just me.
Mm-hmm.
It could affect Mike, it could affect my neighbors, Janet and Charlie Poe.
And it's a lot
and
of
a bunch
retired
of us
people
there.
on our street who
You
are
know,
on fixed
Odie's
incomes,
right
and
down the
that's.
street.
Have
We
you-
don't know, our septics are old.
Right.
We have, we all know, that's a 40-year-old stretch of the road there.
Yeah.
Would I like to have it better? Would I like to be tied in? Hell, yeah, I would love to. We asked the builder who looked into it, and I give him to his credit, to tie into the front. We all thought that was the best way. The town came back to us and said, it's not cost effective to us because there's utilities there, and we have a right of way to the back. And we're like, and my whole thing is, okay, how can you have a right of way to the front and the back too? Because it doesn't say that on it. You're looking at a 1968 plot before the places were even built, and that said you have a 7.5 foot right of way to the back of our properties, which you never ever exercised. And now you're saying you want to exercise it after 45 years. All the utilities have been running the front. And when we asked you to run the septic down the front of where all our septics are, where we asked you to run the septic line to the front, you told us it's not cost effective for you, it's not cost effective for the town, it's not cost effective for the builder, because you know, there's utilities there and they don't want to move them. Well, wait a minute, you're saying you have rights to the utilities to the back of our lot, but all your utilities are to the front of our lot. So which right do you have, the front, the back? You know, I don't understand that. And I've seen the plot, I have seen the plot, and that plot's from 1968, before that development was ever built. And I guarantee you that C.J. Miller changed it to however he wanted to get what he wanted in there, and you all know that. And I'm not bashing anybody. Let's be honest here, let's be real about it.
This was an issue that was brought up on other projects, and there was great concern over the cost of doing a modern septic system in the state of Maryland. They are extremely expensive to do, and this was an attempt to actually reduce financial burden on those homeowners. Knowing what's happening in the area, knowing we have various houses that have failing systems, and they do not have enough yard space to put in a new system. And the state of Maryland is not saying, do sand mounts. They don't believe in them. They don't want them.
Unless you have enough property, which.
Unless you have enough property, and then you would do a traditional system. You wouldn't have to go that route. So this was a way to provide a safety blanket. It may not be the warmest blanket, but at least it was a safety blanket for the homeowners along there. And under a traditional format, the developers wouldn't even be doing that. They wouldn't even be entertaining providing anything for those residents. I do have a question for Steve. Where is the closest town system out front?
Out front?
Out front.
There is none.
So
There's
you'd have
nothing.
you'd have to chase it down to 30 basically.
We did some engineering studies back in the late 1990s. And we had designed a system, in theory, that a pump station would be located at the base of Valley View Court.
Okay.
That would catch everything from, let's say, Southwestern Boulevard. It would head down toward Valley View Court. The pump station would be located on a piece of property the town owns, and then the force main would come back up to a point at Charmill Drive, and it would gravity feed out to 30.
So nowhere even close. Okay.
There's nowhere. See, Southwestern Boulevard at the church, there's nothing down there.
Right.
I mean, Southwestern Boulevard, once you get to the intersection of Charmill and Southwestern, and then those homes that sit in front of you, see, none of them, they have all septic systems down there.
Okay.
So
I
there's-
just want to make sure that I wasn't missing
Like
something.
coming up Charmill Drive, there's not any septic?
As you enter Charmill Drive off of 30, as I explained before, when Manchester Farm Section 4 was originally put in,
Right.
they supplied a gravity line that runs in the back, some of the homes in the back, where Mr. Hooper lives and down through there, that they have the same availability as you folks would have to tie in when their septic fail.
What about the ones in front?
The ones in the front,
North side, the north side of Charmill Drive?
no.
No, before you get, I'm talking where Russo lives, Scott Brown, that septic is not under Charmill Drive? in the front
No,
of Charmill Drive?
there's no public sewer at Charmill Drive at all. Nothing,
Okay. I
nothing.
was misinformed then, okay.
Right, nothing. You know, so, and that's why, as I said, the homes on the south side, Russo's, Hooper's,
Right.
Manchester Farms, Bob Ward Homes ran a gravity line down through there and dropped laterals off, similar to what they're doing here. And then if those septics failed, they could tie into the system.
Right,
And there's cleanouts in the backs of the yards. You could see them down there.
right.
So we were preparing back then.
So when you run a septic at the back of our lot, where is that going to end up?
Sewer line is 10 feet, the main sewer main is 10 feet off the back
Right.
of your property line.
But where is all the septic going to go?
It's going to go down Susan Ann Drive all the way down to the pump station at Footbridge.
And you can't do that from the front?
The problem is there's the rise from all up.
Right.
The way Suzanne goes down, it dips.
Right.
You know, sewer, you gotta have, typically on a main, you want 3/8 of an inch or .40. So you just can't get the fall.
I understand.
I understand what you're saying, but if that ride is a problem for them, don't you think that'll be a problem for us?
No, sir.
Why is that?
Because what would have to happen in order to sewer back around, you'd have to go down out of your front yard, go down Charmel, then go back up Susan Ann and come down. Whereby as you work your way out of the back of your house, you connect into this at a higher point, so it continues to gravity on down. It's,
Don't see it.
it's a lot.
I just don't see it, and only because I live there,
Yeah.
and the elevation from the front to the back is probably at least 20 feet by the time it gets to the back, and that's without digging and all.
And it would be our
That's
responsibility to.
it's
work
from
out
your
utilities
driveway.
and
Right.
You come up,
Right.
your driveway, and your
But
house
I'm
sits up
saying,
here.
In order to get out, you're gonna have to go down like this to tie in, because for gravity feed, it has to go downhill, if I'm correct, right?
It generally wants to flow downhill.
Yes, so I'm not sure how you're gonna get from up here to down here without a very large
do it all the
expense. You're
time.
gonna have,
There's nothing to it.
well, I'm sure you
So-
do, but it's an expense that's occurred with each foot that you dig.
Right, but you're talking 12 feet, right? There's no
Okay,
30
12
pound
feet.
where,
How much is 12 feet of digging cost?
Not
Just
much.
asking. I don't know.
So if we have 8 feet at the front of the house, correct?
no,
where the
you're gonna be
septic comes
10
out?
feet.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
You're higher, but typically, on the ranchers that sit down, they come out the front, say 9 to 10 feet to tie in wherever the,
so then
Ladder
I'm
comes
only
out.
gonna have to drop another 2 feet from the front of my house, 140 feet back to where the line is.
every 10 feet, you gotta drop 2.5 inches.
It's not gonna happen.
Am I wrong on that?
You would all would have to come
That's-
out there and look.
That's the
because it's
standard.
just not there.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
saying,
it's a
We-
yeah, I'm not arguing the standard, I'm arguing about how.
We
deep
have
it would
everything
to
right
be
there.
Where that
And
tie-in is.
and that's what I'm doing.
Where
I'm
it
saying
comes
you're
out
gonna
of my
have to go
house.
30 feet. Because he's talking about dropping the back of the line an additional, what, 20 feet behind your house?
No, the sewer main, the deepest that is
That's,
14.
I'm not
It's
talking
14.
about sewer. You're dropping the property line behind his house at least 20 feet.
right, but still the sewer main
Okay,
is.
It's
not,
gonna be on
not,
top.
not the property
Below your
line.
highest grade.
The
in
property
back.
line stays the same.
Okay, but the sewer line's not gonna be on top
Grade.
of the property line, is it?
Right. The sewer line will be 10 feet into their
So if he
property.
drops at 20, the sewer line's gonna be 30?
No. The 20 is where the houses that he's building will sit. He's dropping those houses down. The sewer line is up closer to the property line,
Your property, your existing.
your property
Basically
line.
the same,
So it'll,
basically the same, close to the same
What your
elevation
grade
of what
is
it
now,
is
if
now.
you
But
went
here-
down 12 feet,
Right.
that's the line.
the other part of this is when they build the sewer line, if they build the sewer line, if they build it, there'll be a connection that comes off the main. It'll run up towards the property line, then there'll be a stack. Okay, so a pipe going up, straight up.
That we
So
still
if,
gotta dig in and tie in and
so
gotta go
if,
back.
if you only need to dig in 4 feet to get that gravity, that's all you need to do. If you need to do 10.
Robert, no disrespect, it's not gonna be 4 feet.
I know.
You can sit there and tell me all day long it's gonna be 4 feet.
No, I
It's not
said
gonna be
if.
4 feet. It's gonna be closer to 20 to 30 feet.
Now, we have the numbers right there, they're on the plans,
Show me
Tony.
the numbers all day long. When I hired a plumber who's gonna come in, he's gonna tell me he's gonna dig it down 20 feet. And then what do I do?
I disagree with you.
Well, if you've done the engineering.
I disagree with you.
We do it all the time, I mean, this is.
Yeah,
this is very
I know where you're
simplistic.
coming from.
Could I put something into perspective here,
It's finally
something?
gotten through here.
Sure,
something
go
that-
ahead.
Okay.
Good.
No disrespect to all of you, this does nothing but put a hardship on the people back there. We have to pay the expense to put it down here. The only people who benefit from this is the town, and I hate to say that.
Tony.
I love this town. Steve, just let me speak. I love the town. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love this town. I do not want to incur a $20,000 fee to tie in for a septic line back there when I think there's better options. I came here to say my piece. I said, if you guys will make a ruling on what you have, that's fine. I will live with that. There's nothing I can do about it. I do not agree with it. I am not an engineer. They all know way much more than I do about this. But I know this with life and life in general. When they tell me, and not just you, and I'm trying to say that, when anybody tells me it's gonna be this way, and they come back and say, it was gonna be 10,000, but now it's 20, that's the bottom line. That's what it's gonna cost me. And it's probably not gonna cost me 20, it's probably gonna cost me 30. And when you all adjourn, I'm drinking beer as far as, adios, amigos.
Tony, before you leave, could I mention one thing?
I wanna work with you guys, I really do. I wanna make this happen for the town. I would love you guys to work with us, I really would. Go ahead.
I just
will
want to
shut my
put this into
mouth. I will shut
perspective.
my mouth.
I just want to put this into perspective. Remember just a few minutes ago, I mentioned that we did do some conceptual ideas in gathering all the properties on Charmill Drive
Yes, you did.
back in the late 90s. Now, the town is not in the business of running water and sewer lines, extending them. But if that area needed sewer, okay, and remember I mentioned about a pump station at Valley
And
View
I think
Court.
it does too. I
Now, let me
agree with
finish,
you.
let me
I
finish,
do.
let me finish.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That cost would be spread across the board. And not only would you be looking at what you're saying, a $20,000 or $30,000 cost to tie in, at that point in time, you may be looking at maybe $50,000 or $60,000 to tie in. Because when you put a pump station in, the cost of a pump station, you talk about putting pipes in the roads, you're talking about replacing the roads, that cost would be shared across the board.
And then we would pay you for our septic after we.
Right, so we'd
You'd be
paying
paying
the next,
money
if-
to
if-
put
the
it in.
duration.
If we
around.
ran the
So it's
project,
a
which,
no-brainer, put the septic in.
if we ran the project, Mike, yes, you'd be paying us back. And that's how they did it when the original sewer system was put in Manchester. Everybody was assessed a front foot fee. And that's, that's the way it
This,
works.
the reality of this is, we'll have to accept this, and then we gotta accept that Manchester Farms coming in, and I understand these guys own their property and have the right to do with it. But now I gotta live with this for the next year of machines running and all this, chasing out my hogs, chasing out my bald eagles, chasing out my deer, chasing out my, my rabbits, everything. All my wildlife's gonna go away, because that's not gonna wanna live around there. And that's okay, it's their property, it's not mine. And I've lived there for 10 years, and I've grown accustomed to that. I wanna work with the town for a septic. I want something, I want a better septic area, I want to tie in. But what I see now is gonna cost me a lot of money, and I feel like my hands are tied and there's nothing I can do about it. And that's okay, if that's the reality, I can't fight that. This is why I come up here tonight. We want to speak our mind. That's why me, Melissa, Mike, and Trinka came up here. We
Right.
wanted to say
Sure.
that, you know what, this is a really large expense on us. I'm getting ready to retire. Melissa's already retired. Mike and Trinka aren't far from that. You're talking about people with fixed incomes that are going to have to occur in, a price tag on something that we really can't afford. If we gotta do it, we have to do it. If we can't afford it, I mean, there's no other option, we have to move, but can we sell our
Well,
houses
one thing-
with this? And we don't want to, we love this place, we love you, we love this area.
Okay, I think we're ready to.
I have a couple other questions for the
That's fine,
town.
that's the last I'd say. You
They'll
guys
be
make the
brief,
ruling or
I
whatever,
promise.
we're just not happy, that's all I can say.
Steve, let me ask you a question. Maybe you know the answer. If you don't, please just let me know. If we do not actually provide them a connection, we physically don't drop that house connection onto their property, do you know if that changes anything with the way the town's code currently reads?
You would want the gravity sewer installed, just not the lateral going to their property.
If there's no lateral actually providing a connection to them,
And then let's say their septic system failed and they couldn't perk.
they would have to approach the town council, and the town council would have to
And they would
decide
have
whether
to-
they would be allowed to connect to it or not.
They would have to incur the expense of
Putting in the
a
lateral.
tap to make the
Well,
tap
I'm-
into the sewer main.
Yes, they would.
That would be theirs. That,
It's not what I would recommend, but I'm
know.
looking
It's an
for
option. I
for a
mean-
common ground here.
it's an option.
Does anyone know how long the Chesapeake Bay restoration grants are going to be in place?
No idea.
Because I know that that's not a forever lifetime opportunity.
No.
With the new governor and taking away, wants to do away with the rain
It
tax,
has
it could
changed. It
affect the
hasn't
grants, or
changed yet,
it could
but you're
eliminate
right.
the grant.
That's correct.
That's what I'm actually speculating is
Right.
going to happen
Yeah.
in this current election, in this term.
Yeah.
The next
Tammy,
4
you're
years,
you're
Crossed my mind,
100%
too.
it's
correct.
going to change. So, but what I'm also hearing, and to agree with what Robert's asking, I would feel the same way. If these folks are thinking that it's better not to have a sewer connection, then let's get it out of here. Because the front is not an option. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm understanding.
Well, I
The
wasn't
back
aware
is the only
Here's our
option.
bottom line. We would love to have it, but we'd love to have it in the front of our houses.
But that's not an
the back.
option.
It's not gonna
And
work.
That's not an option,
Not a
right.
solution.
So if we had the choice of having it in the back or not having it at all,
Right,
we
that
would
would-
choose to not have it
Okay, then that's the answer. So they don't
Well-
want it.
in the back.
No, we
I
got,
don't think it's fair to
All right, let's, okay.
everybody on the street.
I got you, Bob. Bob.
Well, they're not here, and
Michelle,
I
did you find
did,
anything?
I did send a notice to all the homeowners affected from our house up to Southwestern. I notified everybody and said, look, there's this meeting, you should come, because this affects us. And you can see it's just the four of us, and nobody came.
Go ahead, Bob, would you finish up?
One final comment on my
Yeah,
connection question.
If that is an option, not to provide a lateral onto their property to protect the integrity of the sewer main, you could put the Y in and do a plug.
No.
Yeah.
If we're
No.
removing
They
that
don't
connection,
want it,
removing
we're
the
not
connection.
putting it.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. No, you don't need,
Couldn't find it.
okay. All right.
So let me get, just
Okay.
for my sake. So you would consider putting in the 8-inch sewer main with no connections? The
That's correct.
manholes would be installed?
That's correct. It's going to be a dry system until someone hooks up to it either way.
But then,
And
that,
I know, it's gonna be more cost, but
it's going to be dry until somebody
Yeah.
hooks up to it, so it's going to be an issue. And
You've talked to, I believe you've spoken with some of the other homeowners on the street, right?
correct.
What has been your feeling from them? I think you had mentioned before the Sislers weren't real gung-ho about this.
Right.
And I think the people beside them, I think you had mentioned, I don't know their names.
I know I spoke to the Sislers, and they basically said, well, if it's gonna go in, it's gonna go in, and then that's an option for us to tie into. I talked to, your neighbor, Opie. Yeah, and he says, well, do I have to tie into it? And I said, well, the town doesn't make you tie into it. That, I explained, as I explained earlier, in like what the code says. And he said, okay, well, what's it gonna cost me? Well, it's not gonna cost you anything,
Unless you have to use.
because they're gonna put it in. So he just really didn't, give me any idea.
Running the septic back there and not putting the tie-ins in is like taking a shower with a raincoat on. I mean, you've gotta put it in.
yeah.
I mean,
Now-
like I say, I came up here for the septic,
Yeah.
not against it. I was against the
Did
location.
you,
But if that's not an option, it's not an option.
I think,
And that's
if
been
I'm
our
not
stance.
mistaken, you had also mentioned back in the summer that there were a couple people further up from us who have had their septics have already failed and they've had
Yes.
surgery done. So that is an option for the rest of us, even though you're saying it's not?
There was one right down the street from us this summer, right?
Yes.
So that is actually an option, because all of our lots are about the same size.
An option, Melissa helped me out here.
Okay, so there's been two failed septics.
That's correct.
From between our house, between Susan Ann and Southwestern.
That is correct, yes.
Now, so they were able to have theirs repaired, redone, whatever.
Yes,
something done.
correct.
Because I was under the impression from some of the discussion that if ours failed, we don't have, our lot's not big enough, we couldn't do anything.
It depends on your perk rates.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. And the newest house on Charmill actually has a dual system in their front yard, which the gentleman has to go out every few months and shifts it over to the other system.
Which one's that? Just
The
out of
house,
curiosity.
it's the newest house on your street. It
That
sits,
must be that
The
one,
one on the other
about 2 houses up from us.
The
Sits-
other side of Charlie's, that bluish, like a,
yeah, it sits back off
Yeah,
of the street.
yeah,
Yes, that's
yeah,
correct. It's
okay.
been out there
And
for now
that's the newest
15
house
years.
up there.
Yeah, 15 years, I guess it's been
Okay.
in, so. But I know they have a dual system. And again, the family, there was a house that sold beside the Sislers. And there was an older couple in there, and unfortunately, they passed away, and then a family moved in, and, they started doing wash, and then all of a sudden, they started having issues with their septic. So that was another issue out there. But at that point, there wasn't any access. I mean, there was, you had no access to sewer.
Okay. Thank you for the discussion and the debate.
Sorry, we're a long way.
No, it's
Okay, that's why we're here.
We get everybody.
Passionate for us.
I understand.
And we're trying to make it do right. We want the town to be okay, and we want us to be okay. That's all we're-
Close discussion, board only.
So,
Okay.
does it,
I am willing to make a motion to approve this. I'm also going to add in my motion that the developer secure written notice from each one of the affected property owners as to whether they want a connection or not. And it's a one-time right of refusal. After that, they're gonna have to come to the town, and it's gonna be the town's decision should their sewer fail. That's the way my motion is gonna be made. Any other discussion from the board? I mean,
Sounds good to me.
I hate you have to make that motion, because I think the septic's the way to have it, the lateral there is the way to go, but in an
I
effort to
am-
meet halfway, I applaud your motion.
I am, the sewer back there was my idea, and it was protection for the community. And I know the expense of having to fully replace the septic system. I had to do it on my in-laws' property before I could sell it. And they had a acre lot, and we couldn't find anywhere to get a perk. So, anyhow,
Okay, so with that
Okay.
being said, Michelle,
I make
Okay.
a motion to approve the plan
Right?
with one condition, that the developer secure written notice from each one of the adjacent property owners, whether they want to have a house connection from that sewer line placed onto their property or not. Within that written notice and letter to them, it must state that if they decline, that homeowner, should their septic fail and they have no other alternative, that they must seek approval from the town council for a connection to be made to that sewer line.
We'll go back to the mayor and council.
They have to go back to the mayor and council for it, because it's a change in sewer classifications.
Okay, got it.
you want to, do you have it all?
She has it.
All right, motion to give final approval to Manchester Farm Section 7, providing the developer secure written notice from each adjacent property owner as to whether they want connection. After that, if they've declined, they will have to come back before the mayor and council for approval for future connection.
Okay,
I would second that.
okay, motion's on the floor, has been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
Passed. Anything else for the good of the order?
Nope, I'll make a motion that this meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Good night. Thank you.
Oh,